Everyone, I've decided today to try something a little different. I am going to talk about one of my personal passions, and I'm sure most of yours. Um, Dungeons and Dragons, the ultimate, most famous, you know, tabletop RPG, the inspiration for tons and tons of, you know, video games, other games. Nothing gets better than this. So, anyways, give me a second to get everything set up, and then we will get started. Okay. Alright, this is the player's... a little loud. The player's handbook. This is what you're going to need, really, to understand the basis mechanics of D&D. D&D stands for Dungeons and Dragons, if you were unaware. The credits, always good to know. Table of contents. If you were ever in elementary school, you know that's important. The introduction. This is the Dungeons and Dragons role-playing game. The game that defines the genre and has set the standards for fantasy role-playing for more than 30 years, which is true. This is 3.0. This is the third version, third revamp, I should say. Actually, fourth, because this is 3.5. But it's not much different from 3.0. It's basically they just added and tweaked it. There's 5 editions. 3.5, the reason why I started with this is the game I started with. This is the game I was introduced to when I was younger and was able to buy the books and enjoy during my teenage years. When I was little, actually, I watched my mother and my stepfather play Advanced, which is another word for the most used word, really, for the second edition of Dungeons and Dragons. And they played Advanced. So, but Advanced is a whole different category that's a little more difficult to explain. It's a bit complex. Anyways, D&D is a game of your imagination. Most of this is your imagination. The dice are basically there to, which we will get into the dice at one point here. Hopefully today. Because I'm hoping to do more than one part, because this is the basics of the game is what I'm going to be talking about. And then there's races and items and feats, which stand for features. A lot of people don't know that because it's so commonly called feats, and it confuses the heck out of starters, and hopefully this will help beginners understand this a bit. Anyways, so again, this is a game of imaginations, though there is tools to help you visualize. I'll talk about that for a minute here. These are some of the tools that you'll see. These are miniatures, the little statues, right here. And they represent your character on the board, the map here the kid's drawing on and everything. There's several different types of maps that you can get. The most common is this map the kid's drawing on, which you can erase and draw on whatever dungeon you're doing and then erase it again. They're the most common I've ran into. This other one came with the box set that you can buy, and there are several different types of these. Also, there's ones that are similar to like a puzzle set, and you can mix and match different rooms, hallways, traps into these puzzles, and then there's your map. You just put the miniatures on them. I might actually do a video about different maps that you can use, but this is 2 maps that I'm showing you right now. This helps you visualize not just your character, but where your character is from monsters. If you can look behind this elven lady, you can see 2 monsters back there. One looks like it might be a orc. I think they're both orcs. But you can buy miniatures for the monsters, and they represent monsters. I know some person who has I think 200 different types of monsters. It's all of these plastic ones. The plastic ones are the staple right now. Everyone uses plastic ones. I personally like the metal ones. Peter, I think? I probably have no idea what I'm talking about. Anyways, sorry. I had to check something. I enjoy the metal ones more, and I like to paint them. You can get them pre-painted, pre-colored, or you can get them plain and then paint them yourselves to match more of what your character looks like in your mind. There's also other sites where you can order them. You know, I want a elven priestess, and they will make it for you. So let's go back to the book for a minute. So that is an option. Miniatures really become part of your character, especially when you use the map a lot. But there's other games that don't even use a map. It's all in your mind, and those can get very exciting, especially if most of it's role-playing. This is a role-playing game. It's not just mechanics. There's quite a bit of interaction, which, you know, D&D is a very social game that way. What you need to play. The Player's Handbook, Dungeon Master's Guide, and Monster Manual are the 3 core books in D&D. Here they are. Here's the 3.5s. I recommend players having a copy, or at least borrowing a copy of the Player's Handbook. Read through it, learn your rules, learn several different ways to go about it, because that's important. Also, listen to your DM, because your DM, and we'll get into that, is basically your world. They're presenting your world, and a lot of people call them the D&D god. They represent, you know, any deities in the game, NPCs. They present quests, and there's several ways of going about that, and I think that's a video all on its own of different ways you can go about DMing, which is the word for dungeon master-ing your game. And that's a whole different video all on its own. Monster Manual is, of course, monsters. Tons and tons of monsters. The reason why it's important is it has all the stats, information about where they can be found, things like that that are needed in a game that does have, you know, stats and mechanics to it. You can always make up your own mechanics, but these are tested mechanics written by the people who wrote, you know, the Player's Handbook and the mechanics of your player. a copy of your character sheet at the back of this book for each player. Now, I'm going to have to shuffle around because my streamer wanted to be a meanie head and move and not let me have 5 screens because that would be too much. But let me see if I can add this real quick. There we go. Make it a little bigger. This is the character sheet. It's kind of blurry because I got it off the internet. But I will go more into depth about parts of the character sheet, but you do need this. You need to at least write down stuff or you're gonna forget it. That's just the end of it. It records your name, what you are, what you're playing, your skills, which is another video we're going to have to just talking about skills and what classes go well with different skills, etc. Your saving throws, rolls, a lot of different ways of saying that. Again, that I will probably explain that later. And your weapons and your gear and your spells. This is something that you will need to play the game, or at least have a piece of paper representing this. But the cool thing about character sheets... Dottie, I am talking. Can you not growl while I'm talking? Please, can you be a good little partner? Thank you. Anyways, where was I? The cool thing about character sheets and the pre-made character sheets is that they have all this information already down. You don't have to copy and paste it, write it all the time. This is here. There's a lot of avenues for this. You can, of course, copy. A lot of my friends take existing character sheets that they enjoyed from other games. They'll go to the library and use the copying machine and make copies. That's pretty much a good way to go about it. And you'll notice when you start playing is D&D is a community. It's really, you know, again, a social game. Also, there's online avenues. There's Roll20, which again is going to be a video all on its own. And there is online fill-in character sheets, websites in which you can just fill it in, and they will actually do the math for you, because there is quite a bit of math in D&D. A great thing that my parents were wonderful to teach me is you need math. And if you got kids that are interested in playing D&D with you, it's a great way to help them learn. Oh, my mind is like completely spacing. Algebra, normal math, all that is in D&D. And it can really apply that math. Anyways, so that's the character sheet. Oh, I have to change screens or you don't know what I'm doing. Okay. A battle grid, I've already talked about that. Battle grids are the maps I showed earlier. And though they aren't needed exactly, they are, you know, very useful. Miniatures, again, I showed you the little statues. Those represent your characters and monsters and where you are on the map. And that's important when we get into battle. And then dice, I decided that we all need to see this. When I do beginner games, dice is usually the most complicated part of it. Everyone seems to be really confused. They're not used to dice. The only real dice that they're used to is a 6-sided dice. And that's usually the one they go for constantly. Sorry. 6-sided dice, obviously you can tell. I'm going to go down the line with choose your weapon because the cursor's not working on this. the first one you see is a four-sided dice. It looks like a pyramid. It's also called a 1d4. And it's usually used for things like daggers, small weaponry, basic spells. A 1d6 is next. It's used in most board games. If you played Monopoly, you know what a d6 is. You may not know it as a d6, but it's the most common dice used in most games. And it's used for some weaponry, like I believe it's used for a mace. And that's about it. I'm trying to think of other things that a d6 uses, and it's not coming to me. The next one is a d8. A d8 kind of looks like two pyramids put together. And basically that is what it is. It's two 1d4s put on top of each other. And it's used for weapons like a bastard sword and etc. And it actually is used quite a bit for DMs when they're trying to figure out how much gold or certain things you get. The next one isn't a very good reputation. If you look above, there's two dice that look like the next one. There's one that has a 10 on it and one that has a 0. These are your percentages. If you know what a percentage is, you know it's 1 to 100. This goes a little farther than 1 to 100. It actually goes to 1 to 90, 190. If you count certain things. But this goes to 1, normally it's 1 to 100. And basically one dice represents the 10 digit while the other dice represents the 1 digit. And this is used again for figuring out what treasure you get. It also is used for how, if you fail at something, how badly you fail at it. And it's mostly used by the DM. A lot of people find that extremely intimidating for some reason, but really once you start getting into 1 to 100 or 1 to 99, it works. The next one down the line is a 1d12. Again, this is mostly used for weaponry, sometimes hit points, but not often. Hit points being how much you can take before, you faint. Again, we will get into that. A 1d20 is the last one there, and it is possibly the most iconic. It's where the system is pretty much based off of, and it usually is used to determine if you have exceeded. There's usually a difficulty check, or how hard a task is, and as a character, you have skills and abilities that give you pluses. So you'll roll a d20, and let's say you roll a 10, and your ability score is +3, and the difficulty check was 12. That means you've exceeded at what you were trying to do. You're trying to go above the difficulty check. And that's a d20 basically. It sees if you exceed or you fail. A nat 20 is usually an automatic success. No matter, if you roll a 20 on a dice, not just with the pluses, an actual 20, usually if you have a good DM, they give it to you. A 1 is basically the doomsayer of the D&D world. That means you failed. That means something went really bad. And this is the dice that you're probably going to basically make love to. You are going to whisper things to it and kiss it and be like, please, oh please, don't give me a 1. But those are the dice. Let's go back to the book. Okay. Another thing you'll be needing is pencils, scrap paper, graph paper, and that's more for DMs. Unless you're trying to make your own map, which some people do. And you need to take notes, map your location, and where your character will has explored, should be said. Scrap paper is so important. Do not write your HP.
The regular doctor is trying to,
you know, when it downgrades on your depletes. That's a good, better word for it. On your character sheet, because it will mess you up. Because you will forget what your HP was previously. So do it on a screen, on a piece of paper. What I would do is I'd write down the HP and then mark it off as it goes. Some people do tally marks, and that works for them. My brain doesn't work that way, and most people don't. But
for more compassionate people and people that truly cared about.
Have a scrap piece of paper. I usually buy a notebook and I dedicate it to taking notes.
Dr. Evans told me that
and
would help me. He's like, we will get you there.
Helping with my HP. And also, if you're a spellcaster, it's really great to have a notebook with you to know what spells you have memorized that day. What items you have is a big thing. Your inventory needs to be kept because you do not want to forget when you have the key to a room. So again, buy a notebook. Buy a whole bunch of mechanical pencils. Every time I start up a game, I at least buy a handful of mechanical pencils because they will go out. And normal pencils will become little stumps. But that's D&D for you. Anyways, again, I don't personally make personal character maps because the DM will usually keep that, and he will normally share. But other DMs don't. So I know it sounds like school, but you know. Anyways, so dice. It pretty much goes into what I just said. Percentages. They have a little important thing down here. Not every action requires a dice roll. This is true. Roll dice in combat, other dramatic situations when success is never a certainty. So basically, you're rolling when no one knows if this is going to work out or not. The moments where it's up to chance is when you use dice. A lot of people believe, oh, dice is God, and no matter what, no. Situations are situations. They're going to have some certainty to them, some reaction, and dice are going to help with those moments where, you know, you're fighting in your mind, would this work, would this not? So basically, if you're uncertain about something, use dice. What characters can do? A character can try to do anything you can imagine, just as long as it fits the scene of the DM describes. Depending on the situation, your character might want to listen at a door, search an area, bargain with a shopkeeper, talk to an ally, jump across a pit. It happens. You can actually haggle the shopkeeper, but your DM will try to kill you in your sleep. Anyways, no, DMs don't like that. Some DMs will. Some DMs will be totally into it. They will love you for it. I personally find it quite fun. Others will get frustrated, especially if they're to the book. If they're book people, they have to go by the book or they go insane. Yeah. Yeah, home game. We'll get into what a home game is at one point, yes. Move, use an item, or attack an opponent. So obviously, like the famous line, and I have to have a link to this at one point because it definitely empowers what D&D is attacking the darkness. Basically, there isn't an opponent there. Why are you attacking the darkness? So you have to basically work off of what the DM is giving you. Characters accomplish tasks by making skill tests, ability checks, and attack rolls using the core mechanics. I think I went over that a little bit when we were talking about dice. Um, Skill checks, again, you will have these skills and they will give you pluses towards your rolls. That's how your skills affect how you will exceed. And sometimes skill checks can go crazy. Sometimes you'll get a plus 12 skill check and it's really hard for you not to exceed. It's something you are really, really good at. That normally doesn't happen until further down the line when you're playing a higher level character. And some people will skip the later or should I say the earlier levels because they want that succeeding feeling. I personally think that you don't really get attached to your character or give much of a crap when you're playing a beginning higher level, but I can see the appeal. You won't have to get through the moments where you're pretty much going to die. But anyways, skill checks. To make a skill check, roll a d20 and add your character's skill modifier, what I just said. Compare the results to the difficulty class. Okay, I'm used to it being called checks. So class is a little odd for me. It's called checks in the advanced book and a lot of the books after this one, so it's a little weird to have it called class. But on the same note, everybody has a different experience in D&D, and you'll notice there's different lingos. Even in like, you'll meet a lot of people in the military that have played D&D, and they will have words for D&D stuff that's different than somebody who played it on a farm. It's basically its own language in yourself, but it's really easy to learn because it's always compared to a physical action. Anyways, ability checks. Ability checks are used when a character doesn't have any ranks in a skill and tries to use that skill untrained. Like, you have no idea how to pick a lock. But you have pretty good intelligence and you could probably figure it out. That's the idea. Each ability will have a modifier that also affects your skills, your skill score. This modifier can be used towards something you're untrained with, but with like lock picking, some DMs will say, well, you only get half of your modifier because you have no idea what you're doing. And that really depends on what DM you're working with. Attack rolls. To attack an opponent, roll a d20 and add your character's attack bonus. If the result equals or exceeds the opponent's armor class, the attack succeeds. It's their way of measuring if you hit them or not. Other RPG mechanics work differently than this, but right now we're focusing on 3.5. We'll get into armor class because your character will have an armor class. An exceed attack, roll the dice according to, I'm not saying the right word, but according for your weapon that you are using, and see how much damage your attack deals. Damage reduces hit points, which, like I said, hit points is how much you can take before you faint. And if you take more than your fainting limit, which is usually 0. 0 is when you faint from blood loss and you are dying. In a lot of games, the way we've played it is once you hit a negative 10 points over the 0, again, algebra, you die. Other people do what? Negative numbers is important. Anyways, um, other people do survival checks. You'll roll to see if you've survived through. There's other ways of going about it. Again, D&D can be very regional. It depends on what DM you're working with, where they come from, where they've learned, and what they take from the book. My stepfather, who was a DM for most of my life, did a combination of advanced and 3.0 in his game, meaning he used some rules from advanced instead of some rules from 3.0 because he felt they worked better. A lot of people, well, not a lot, some people go by the book. They're usually called rule lawyers or book thumpers, but in the end, that's kind of a mean term. Both of them are not exactly pleasant terms for people who go by the book. This is what's in the book. You can't change this. This isn't true. You can't actually adapt it as long as you keep it fair and mechanically stable. You can adapt homebrewed rules to your game. As you are a player and not a DM, you may not have to care. You just go with what the DM says, unless he's really making it unpleasant. But we'll get into that in a different video. Okay. When all of your character's hit points are gone, the character falls unconscious and is dying, like I said. A critical hit deals more damage. If you roll a natural 20 on an attack roll, you threaten a critical hit. Roll again to confirm it. If the second roll is successful, then the critical hit is confirmed and you deal more damage. That isn't always true either. Again, homebrewing rules. Some people just go by the first roll. You've made it, you made a 20. You know. Other people do the two things. So you roll a 20 and you've exceeded. And then you roll again to see if you actually hit or something like that. A lot of people just scrap that roll. But it's a rule that is out there. You'll see more of it when we get into battle. Combat rounds. Combat rounds are played in rounds. Combat is played in rounds. Each round spans 6 seconds in the game world. So each round you take, each action you take, takes 6 seconds. That's a little crazy. That changes again throughout RPGs because 6 seconds is actually a short and long time depending on what you're doing. Regardless of how long it takes to play out the role, combat starts with a... Oh man. I know this word. That's what's driving me crazy. Honey, I need your help. I know this word and my brain's not letting me think of it.
Really?
Yeah, that's what's bothering me. It's my memory disorder. Come
How
on.
do you fight? How do you start?
No, just tell me.
No, I want to see if you get it.
No, I won't. That's what's irritating me, and I am streaming. Just tell me. I don't know.
Initiative.
Initiative. Thank you.
I thought you would get it with...
No, it's not going to help because that's what I'm discussing. Anyways, I'm so sorry for that. Initiative checks to determine the order of play for the entire battle. Basically, initiative, it's how fast you react. In a round, you can do one of 3 things. Take a standard action, a normal action, and then move. Or take a move action, meaning you move, and then a standard action. Or or take 2 move actions, or perform a whole round action. Basically, an action that is so complicated that it's going to take you 6 seconds. Usually spells do that. As a player, you use the handbook to create and run a character. Your character is an adventurer, part of a team, and regularly dwells in dungeons and battling monsters. Basically, you are a hero or a villain, and you are battling things. You are the character. That's the part that gets a little fishy, you know. We're going to get into character creation and abilities, and then the next video I'm going to be doing is going to be races and classes. Might have to just do races and separate those, but we're going to at least talk about character creation. Check with your DM. Like I said, the Dungeon Master creates the world. He helps regulate the rules. This is the person you check with. The DM may have house rules, like I said before. Campaign standards that vary from these rules in the book. You should also find out what other players have created so that your character fits in the group. Like, 3 warriors will have real big difficulties if they all end up unconscious without a cleric. A cleric is a healer. You'll have issues if there's a bunch of traps in a dungeon that you don't have a rogue. So, discussing with other people in your group what is needed and what you'd like to play is a good way to have a balanced group. Rolling your ability scores. Now, this again varies. There's an actual part in this book that talks to you about your ability scores and the various ways that you can roll them. So we're going to talk about the one they demonstrate here. But later on, when we get into abilities and skills, we're going to talk about the other ways you can roll your ability scores. Roll your character's 6 ability scores. Determine each one by rolling 4 6-sided dice, ignoring the lowest dice roll and totaling the other 3. So you roll 4 and say you get a 6, 5, 4, and a 1. You ignore the 1. And then you add them up and there's your ability. Record your 6 results on a scrap of paper. A lot of DMs will say you roll and that is your ability. Like, you roll for strength and that is your strength. In this, and the one people normally go with, is you write down those abilities on a scrap of paper. And there's more details in chapter 1, of course. But on a scrap of paper, and then you apply it to what would be useful to your character. So, if you need a lot of dexterity, meaning how fast you move and how fluent you move, again, we'll talk about the abilities in a bit here. And you rolled a 16, a 17, and a 5, you will or not 5, 15, or 12. You'll put the 17 into your dexterity. A thing a lot of people don't understand, because there can be some pretty high rolls, is an average person is a 10. Below 10 is below average, of course. So an average Joe has 10s. So if you have a 17, you are pretty above average. If the closest you get to 20 is the closest to ridiculous. And a lot of people don't recognize that. Okay, so we're going to go on. Choose your character class and race. Like I said, in my next video, I'm going to talk about races. You can choose a class and race at the same time because some races are better suited to certain classes. Like, half-orcs are more suited to being... is more suited to being warrior classes because they're strong, durable. While elves are really good at magic and dexterity based classes like Thief and Bard. They're very magically in tuned. Humans are kind of, again, the average Joes of the universe. They are the basis that all other races come from. So they can pretty much be fitted to work with anything. And when it comes to a beginner's game or your first character, I do recommend that you play a human because it does help with the mechanics. Anyways, so assign and adjust your abilities, like I said before. Now that you know your character's class and race, because your race and class will affect your abilities. They will give you bonuses and change certain things. So again, we're going to get into that later. Your 6 abilities are Strength, Dexterity, Constitution, Intelligence, Wisdom, and Charisma. Again, I am going to go into those a little bit more in depth in a few minutes, so I'm not going to do it now. Review the starting package. There are starting packages. They're basically pre-made packages for that certain character. Again, a recommendation if you don't want to go through the whole hassle of making your character from scratch.
Don't play D&D.
Colin. No. Anyways, so record racial and class features. Again, we're going to get into features later. Select skills, select your features. Review your description or discipline chapter. It's discipline. It's discipline, Gnome.
Discipline?
Discipline. It helps you tell your character you can this now and wait until later. Yeah, no, there's a chapter 6. We're all going to get into discipline. Discipline has several different layers to it. Select your equipment, the stuff you have. And that goes, again, totally different video. Record your combat numbers. Again, hit points, I explained that. Armor class. Word, please.
Dexterity?
No.
Initiative?
Initiative, which is usually affected by your dexterity. It's how fast you react. Your attack bonuses, that gets a little complicated at times, and your saving throws. Details, details, details.
It goes through the fourth month.
Not now. Now choose a name for your character. Determine your character's gender. Choose an alignment. Describe your character's age, or decide on it, and appearance, and so on. Usually people have this in mind before they choose class and race. Usually they have envisioned this lady with red burning hair who's an archer, elf. Usually they got that in mind before they start the whole mechanic part, but some people do work kind of backwards. They kind of do the class race and then fill in the details. That's fine too. Everyone makes a character differently. Everyone experiences a character differently. So we're going to get into abilities. This is your ability modifier. Like I said, 10 to 11, if you look at this chart, is average Joe. You don't get any negatives or pluses to your abilities that have a 10 or 11. 12 to 13 is a +1. They're a little bit better. 14 to 15 is a +2. Again, getting better. Like I said, you get to the ridiculous. Once you hit like 18 to 19, you get a +4, and that's pretty hefty plus once you get into everything. And then above 20, again, gets to extreme ridiculous things. They also affect bonus spells that you get if you're really that high. Like if you have an intelligence of 44, you get a +17 to all of your spells. You only have a dice of 20. If you roll a 10 and you have a +17, you got a 27. And that is above most difficulty level difficulty checks. So you are pretty set. You can re-roll. It goes into that. If they're too roll low, if you're doing a rolling that can get to a 5, most people don't roll like that. They roll with a combination that has an average of 10. But if you roll a 5, re-roll. You got a -3. Um, unless you want to put in charisma and be really, really ugly. And charisma, I'll get into, is not just physical appearance. But again, it's good to re-roll that. And a DM should allow you to re-roll that. My personal opinion. And here's your abilities. Now we're going to get into the things where I probably have to take a drink of water. Strength measures your character's muscles and physical power. This ability is important for fighters, barbarians, paladins, rangers, and monks. You know, if you are an acrobat, you need a little bit of strength, a little bit above it, but you don't need to be the strong man. That's pretty much what it's saying. Because it helps them in battle. Strength affects how hard you hit. That's pretty much there. What you can carry, it helps with the limits of the amount of equipment on your character. It also affects what kind of armor you can wear. A person with a low strength is not going to be able to run around in an extremely heavy armor for long periods of time. And you are going to be running, walking long distances, jumping, swinging. If you don't have a high strength, do not wear heavy armor unless you have some crazy thing. And we're going to get into that too. Some people can really go nuts. Anyways, you apply your character strength modifier, which is that plus or negative, to your melee attack rolls. So melee, basically swords, maces, non-ranged, basically like not a bow, a dart, or a crossbow. Damage rolls when using a melee weapon or a thrown weapon, including a sling, so it affects your damage modifier. It's how much you hit. Half the character strength bonus, while two-handed attacks receive 1.5 times the strength bonus. No, I don't know a lot of people that apply that. No, the 1.5 when using two-handed attacks. I don't see a lot of people that go through that do that. They usually just let you roll and then roll again. Climb, jump, and swim checks. Obviously, that's kind of self-explanatory. Yeah, you need strength to pull yourself up when you climb, to push off when you jump, to swim.
Some idiot from falling in a grave.
It helps. And strength tests for like breaking down doors, breaking locks, etc.
What about breaking glass?
Anyways, dexterity. I've been talking about that off and on this entire time. Anyways, dexterity measures hand-to-eye coordination, agility, reflexes, and balance. This ability is the most important for rogues. Also, I will argue that it's also pretty good for wizards and bards. It does help with how quickly you spellcast. Also how well you... Yeah, and ranged weapons. So, most spellcasters will have ranged weapons, because they're kind of in the back of the group.
Because wizards don't hit with goddamn
Well, that and most wizards start with 3 hit points. So, anyways, like we said, it applies to ranged attacks that include certain spells, including some attacks made with bows, crossbows, throwing axes, and other ranged weapons. It also affects your armor class. I think that was their way of applying dodging to being hit. It's basically how quickly you move out of the way. Reflex savings is, again, avoiding things like fireballs and other attacks that you can escape by moving quickly. Kind of is self-explanatory. It also helps with balance, escape, artistry. I'm saying artistry because, anyways, it's there as escape artist. Hide, moves silently, open locks, ride, sleight of hands, tumble, and using rope checks. I will let you argue on why that is. There are the skills that dexterity are key. Then they have example of monsters and their dexterity, their normal average dexterity. Constitution. Constitution represents your health and stamina, how healthy you are. You can be really strong and still been a smoker your entire life and cough when you run. That's a bad example. Anyways, a constitution bonus increases your character's hit points. So you don't just need strength when you're a fighter, you also need constitution because it allows you to be hit more. So this ability is important for all classes. Some might need it more than others, but in the end, you do not want to be the person with 3 hit points. If you roll 3 hit points for your wizard, have a decent constitution so you can at least go up to 5. That's all I can advise you on that one if you're rolling for hit points. Each roll of hit die, though parsley can never drop a result above or below 1. That is, a character always gains at least 1 hit point each time he or she advances in a level. This is true. It helps with for saving throws, constitution checks, see if your body can handle. This is a skill important to spellcasters, because can your body handle the rush of doing that spell, or if that spell backfires. If a character's constitution score changes enough to alter his or she constitution modifier, the character's hit points also increase or decrease accordingly. Basically, if someone turns you into a frog, your constitution is going to go down, and so is your hit points. Putting that out there. Here's average constitution scores. I have no idea why you're crying. Intelligence. Intelligence determines how well your characters learn, reason. The best way I've had this explained is intelligence is book smart. Your ability to reason, read, and comprehend. This ability is important for wizards, because again, you are a spellcaster. You mostly learn from spells, scrolls, and though you might have a teacher, it can't be fully explained all the time. It affects how many spells you can cast during the day or period, how hard your spells are to resist. So if you are knowledgeable on how to make this spell more effective, you are going to cause more damage, basically. And someone who wants a wide assortment of skills, because most skill points the points you can put into skills are affected by your intelligence modifier. The number of languages your character knows at the start of the game is affected by your intelligence modifier. The number of skill points gained each level, but the character always gets at least 1 skill point per level. It also helps with appraising. That's kind of self-explanatory too, because your knowledge on what this thing is. Crafting, etc., etc. Sorry, I'm starting to get a little lispy. A wizard gains bonus skills based on her intelligence score. The minimum intelligence score needed to cast a wizard spell is 10 plus the spell's level. I'll get more into that in the spell section. You might notice it said her. And this is something I kind of wanted to say. If you wanted to read the book for yourself, you're going to notice that. A lot of this book is based off of pre-made characters and pre-made games. So you're going to hear a lot of hers instead of them or him, etc. A animal has an intelligence score of 1 or 2. A creature of human-like intelligence has a score of at least 3. And here is your average intelligence scores. Wisdom describes a character's wisdom, common sense, come on, mouth, perception, and etc. It's your common sense. I've had it described as your street smarts, your ability to notice and understand what you've noticed. Wisdom represents being in tune and aware of one's surroundings, exactly what I just said, and etc. A simpleton is a low intelligence, might still have a great insight as a high intelligence. Or high wisdom. Wisdom is the most important ability for clerics and druids, and is also important for paladins and rangers. Basically, everything should have a little bit of wisdom. If you want your character to have a acute sense, the ability to notice and apply what you have noticed, you need a high score in wisdom. Every creature has a wisdom score of some sort. This has to do with your will save, basically how you are affected by charm person spells, things like that. Healing, listen, sense motive, etc. Again, you could probably apply that. And here's the average. Charisma. Again, I'm going to have to go into detail for this one. Charisma measures a character's focus on personality, personal magnetism, ability to lead, and physical attractiveness. Basically, it's not just if you're cute, it's also how you present yourself and how you apply your personality to affect other people. This has to do with bluff, diplomacy, disguise, gathering information, basically if you can talk information out of people, handling animals, and perform and intimidate. So your barbarian might want to have a decent charisma if it wants to be, intimidating on purpose. So basically being able to control how you influence others. Turning checks for clerics and paladins attempting to turn a zombie, vampire, or other undead do need some type of charisma for some reason. Again, you can argue about that. Believe it or not, it's charisma. Alright, whatever you say. Sorcerers And bards get bonus spells based on their charisma because they have to deal with a lot of performing. It's
You said wizards?
sorcerers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wizards is intellect.
Anyways, yeah, so you can change your abilities. I'm gonna let you read these part on your own. And that is the end of the ability part. So that's the end of this video. Thank you for everyone who joined me. Hi. Even the person who was crying for some reason. Um, and I hope you enjoyed my little explanation of abilities in 3.5. Next time that I do this, I'm planning on talking about races, which is actually one of my favorite topics in D&D. Basically dwarves, humans, elves, half humans, half orcs, halflings, and gnomes. And you all know I'm excited to talk about gnomes. Anyways, so Colin, would you stop? And hopefully my next video will help you choose the race that is perfect for your character. Anyways,
The race of destiny.
so I will be turning to this subject once I have rested my throat, because for some reason it's crackling now. And that is end for now. Thank you so much for joining me, and bye-bye.